analysts are calling Russia a junior partner in the Chinese Communist Party's network of international oppression. Our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez breaks down how the CCP has enabled the Kremlin's war machine and extended a lifeline to the Russian economy.
The Chinese Communist Party has been propping up the socialist regime in Venezuela since 1999, and the CCP's support for the Ayatollah's regime in Iran dates back to the early stages of the Islamic Revolution in 1979. But there is one world leader that Xi Jinping has been meeting on average 5 times per year since he rose to power in 2013 for a total of 63 meetings thus far, and that is Russian President Vladimir Putin. In 2001, a year after Putin rose to power, the CCP and Russia upgraded their diplomatic ties to that of a strategic partnership. Since then, the Russian regime of Vladimir Putin has sold approximately $4 billion worth of military equipment to the socialist regime of Venezuela. In 2007, the regime of Vladimir Putin launched a full-scale cyber attack on its neighbor Estonia. And in 2008, Russia invaded its neighboring country, Georgia, taking control of South Ossetia and Abkhazia. And of course, we know that in 2014, it was the first invasion of Ukraine when Russia took control of Crimea and parts of Luhansk and Donbass. And starting in 2015, the Russian regime began military operations and support to the regime of Bashar al-Assad in Syria, as well as providing air defense systems to the regime in Iran. And of course, in 2022, Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. In February of 2022, 20 days before the second Russian invasion of Ukraine, Vladimir Putin met with Xi Jinping, and both leaders signed a no-limits friendship agreement in between both nations. Since then, the trade between both nations has increased 63%. The CCP sells to Russia around $300 million worth of dual-use components every month since the war started. These are essential components to Putin's war machine, like microchips and ball bearings that tanks and guided missiles share in common with dishwashers and cars made in China. The CCP has provided Vladimir Putin with diplomatic cover on the world stage by refusing to condemn the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Now, it's important to note that Russia is able to wreak havoc across the world because of the support it receives from the Chinese Communist Party. Since the beginning of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Moscow has become the #1 seller of oil to the CCP, and that with those cash inflows that Moscow is receiving by selling discounted oil to China, then Russia can source dual-use components from China, like dishwashers and cars, to fuel its war machine, to give cover to its soldiers in Ukraine, to provide cover for the Iranian missile defense system, and also to sell those $4 billion of weapons equipment to the socialist regime in Venezuela. None of this would be possible without the CCP's no-limits friendship with the Russian regime. It is important to know that the next time that Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping will meet is on May 9th in Moscow during the Victory Day parade celebrations on the Red Square. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.